want to start with a story that one of my longtime clients tells me every time I see him. This is back in the early 1990s. He had the chance to buy a signed print of Robert Frank's Trolley, New Orleans for $7,000. At the time, most Frank photographs were selling around 5,000, so he hesitated. The gallery assured him it was a beautiful print in excellent condition, but he refused to go above what he thought was fair, and he walked away. Fast forward, and the most recent auction record for a similar print, over $400,000. This isn't just a story about a missed opportunity, it's a reminder that without the right framework, even experienced collectors can let major value slip through their hands. So, how do you avoid missing opportunities like this? There are three overarching factors that determine the value of a photograph. I think of them as three tracks of history. You have the history of the photographer, the history of the image, and the history of the print itself. The first factor is where the artist sits within the history of photography and how they push the medium forward. Take Edward Weston, for example. Weston fundamentally redefined what was considered worthy of a photograph. By training his lens on a cabbage, leaf, a shell, or a pepper, he showed that form and light alone could carry artistic weight. And this shift is why Weston sits at the very center of the market even today. His work marks a dividing line in the history of photography. There's what came before him and what came after. And this is because Weston championed the idea of pure photography, a new idea at the time, which was an unmanipulated, objective representation of reality that highlighted the medium's unique qualities. He was a leading member and public face of Group F64, a collective in San Francisco photographers who advocated for straight photography through sharp detail, technical precision, and small apertures like f64. His focus on the essence of his subjects, combined with his elegant, formalist approach, helped establish the West Coast School of Modernism and cement photography's legitimacy as a fine art. When you look at today's market, that legacy is baked directly into the value of his prints. The second factor is where the image itself fits within the arc of the photographer's career. Is it one of their most iconic photographs? Is it a breakthrough moment when they were still forming their ideas? Or is it a lesser known work? Dorothea Lange's White Angel Breadline is a perfect example of how one image can crystallize an artist's career. It was the first documentary photograph she ever made when she stepped outside the safety of her portrait studio during the Great Depression. In that moment, she shifted from photographing society's comfortable classes to bearing witness to America's most vulnerable. That single photograph of a man with his head bowed, tin cup in hand, framed against a line of unemployed men waiting for a meal, became emblematic of the era and defined her trajectory. It wasn't just another Depression image. It was the picture that launched her career as one of America's great documentary photographers. Collectors view it as a touchstone, a breakthrough work that captured both the human dignity and the social struggle of the 1930s. White Angel Breadline foreshadowed the sensitivity that would later come to define Lange's Migrant Mother and her other Farm Security Administration images. It marked the turning point when an established portrait photographer found her life's purpose and redefined what photography could mean. And finally, the third factor is the history and condition of the object itself. When was it printed and for what purpose? Who has owned it? What's its condition today? These questions can mean the difference between a five-figure photograph and a six-figure one. Condition and provenance aren't small details. They are market drivers. Together, these three tracks, the photographer, the image, and the object, are what determine the true value of a photograph. This process of weighing all three is called connoisseurship. And connoisseurship is not about luck, it's a framework that lets you recognize historical significance, market patterns, and long-term value. It's the kind of expertise that takes decades to acquire. Collectors who understand these factors or who work with an expert who does don't just build beautiful collections. They make informed, strategic investments that stand the test of time. So, the next time you're considering a photograph, ask yourself, where does this artist sit in the history of photography? Where does this image fit within their career? And what is the story of this particular print? These questions can transform the way you collect. If you'd like to go deeper, I invite you to download my free Smart Collector's Guide to Photography or explore my private collecting strategy sessions where we apply this framework directly to your collection. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss future videos on building a valuable photography collection.